Welcome, friends. Want to introduce you to Amanda. So, our latest success story, Amanda, I'm not going to suck any of the words out of your mouth. Just start by telling us your good news.
My good news is I just accepted an offer for a head of marketing position at a company, and I am starting on Monday. So I'm very excited. I got more than what I had hoped I would salary-wise, and I lots of good benefits and a really exciting working culture.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, take us into the story. Tell us how this came about.
So in this situation, it's one of those things where you plant seeds and then things come back around, right? So earlier on in my hunt, there was a role that didn't work out with a former boss I had, and she was on the lookout for me after that and introduced me later on to her former boss who had just moved to this new company and was just starting there as the CEO. And from there, things moved very, very fast. Another thing that helped me in this role was one of the other roles that I was a runner up for was a VP role for a small tech company. The hiring manager really liked me there too, and also kind of felt similarly, wanted to give me some good leads for future roles, introduced me to the private equity company that is backing this company. So they'd already heard about me from him. And then when I was introduced for this role by my former boss to her former boss, it just went really quickly.
And so, tell me about the time frame for these various introductions and give me a little bit of color commentary around that.
Yeah, so it was probably about a few months ago that the one role didn't work out with my former boss, and it was a month or two before that other role didn't work out with the VP at that tech company. So kind of funny how, a few months later, all of a sudden those seeds turned into something else. And once I started conversations for this role, it moved extremely fast. I was introduced on a Friday by my former boss to the CEO of the company. We talked that day. I could tell he liked me. He said, "Is there anything that would prevent you from accepting an offer next week?" I said, "Well, it depends," because I actually was in conversations with another company at the same time. But we did all the interviews with all the other people on the leadership team the following week, and I had an offer in hand by the following Friday. So all within 1 week.
Oh my goodness, that is like rapid wildfire. So
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. What do you know so far about the title and what you're going to be doing?
So I will be head of marketing, and I will be helping a $5 million ARR company grow over the next 3 years to 17 to best case 25 million ARR. So it seems like it's a very reasonable bet, though, based on what I've learned from the private equity company. And I'm excited to lead the marketing team. It's roughly 10 people. They just need a little bit more strategy, demand gen leadership, and that's one of my skill sets. So I think with my skill set plus the new CEO, who's my boss, and some of the other people he's bringing on, I think that we have a really good shot at hitting that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's talk about our work together. So, why don't we start with the resume process? What did you think of that? How did that feel? Was it better or worse than any other resume process you had been in before? Talk about that. Give me a little bit of color commentary about your thoughts there.
Super helpful. I love the template. I think it really helped break through barriers. I have been, it's not an easy job market right now. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, especially in kind of marketing and tech kind of businesses. And I've talked to other friends who were, casually looking, and they said, "You're the only person I know who's getting any interviews at all off of cold applies." And I have to credit that to, I think, the work with the resume and the cover letters, and just the different steps in that process, because as we all know, it's very easy to get filtered out before you even get to a human. So I swear by the resume. I think that that really helped open some doors, because I definitely did have a lot of interviews just off cold applies.
Um, how did you feel when you saw the resume? I mean, when you first got it, did it capture your story? Did it say what you wanted it to say?
Yes, and I think one of the things I liked most about it, obviously, it's easily customizable for each individual job, which is important, but also the intro section, the about me section, I think is really important because it can be overwhelming for hiring managers to kind of parse through all your experience, and they're looking for what's the bottom line, who is this person? And I think it summarized it really well, and it kind of brands you right out of the gate.
And then let's talk about the LinkedIn process. So, how did you find LinkedIn to perform for you once you and I did our work together?
Much better. I think I always struggle with what's too much, what's too little on LinkedIn. So I think that it just told my story a lot better. And I definitely had hits from recruiters that proactively reached out after we did our work on LinkedIn. Some of those were really promising opportunities, and there were some that I actually was still in process with when I ended up just narrowing it down to these two roles. So it was effective.
You and I obviously had a lot of conversations over the course of time. Is there any particular piece of advice or strategy, something that I told you to do that was new for you, you hadn't heard of before, or maybe you had, but you're doing it differently with me this time that worked? If so, what was that, and what do you feel about the effectiveness of that?
I think there are multiple things, honestly. I mean, the first, obviously, the approach to the resume, the approach to, trying to get past the ATS, the approach to, setting up the LinkedIn with keywords. All of that was a little bit new. I mean, I had keywords, but I just didn't understand the strategy behind it. So that was really helpful and got results. And then, streamlining the process because it can take so long to apply for jobs. So, smart ways to quickly customize your resume, quickly create cover letters with the process that you shared with us. All of that was super helpful. And then just the approach to networking. I'm good at networking. I have a very broad network, but apart from the initial like, hey, I don't have a job anymore, keep an eye out. I wasn't great at crafting my messaging to be a little bit more purposeful and to help them help me. So I felt that some of the tactics that were shared in the program really helped with that. And it was quick, easy, repeatable. So it wasn't something that took all day. I got a lot of conversations going and I got a lot of traction out of that.
Were the various steps that we did together or that I walked you through easy or hard? How much so, and why do you think that?
I think they were easy, honestly. It's just that you have to have a good strategy and know how to do it, and it has to come to your mind. So, but no, easy, which is great because things take so much time. Filling all these workday profiles that takes a lot of time by itself. So you can't afford to be completely rewriting a resume every single time you're applying, and you can't afford to be manually writing a cover letter every single time you're applying. I mean, it would really have cut down the amount of applications I could have gotten out there.
So now that you know what all my steps are, what would you say about other people? I mean, do you need to be a genius to do this? Do you need to be a PhD? Where do you need to be in order to go through the steps that you now know that I have?
I feel like anyone could do it. I feel like anyone who has some level of professional acumen and knows what they're good at and they can articulate that to you, and they understand what they want, anyone who can fulfill those requirements can do it.
Awesome, awesome. So you are starting the job Monday, you said.
Yes.
How does it feel? Tell us that.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. It's been a little while. I'm a little rusty, but I've already been on a couple calls with the team, even though I haven't officially started yet. And I think there's going to be some really good synergy there. I think I'm going to really like my boss, and I think I'm going to learn a lot. And that's ultimately what I wanted, is that next step in my career where I can actually grow and learn, and it makes sense as the next step of my resume. And this
Is it fair to say that what we did together, what I showed you, what I advised you, does it work? And why do you think what you think?
it works. The reason I think it works is because it worked for me, and because I know other people who are in this job market who have good experience too, and their methods haven't been working for them. So I'm glad I got involved sooner versus later, because yeah, it did take me a little while to find this job. I can't imagine what it would have been like had I not had this framework to work from pretty much the beginning. I think that it would have been a lot more discouraging to me. It would have been hard to, what the next steps are. And I see a lot of people getting really down in this job market, which is understandable. So it always felt good to go back to just work the plan and something will come. And it did.
That's awesome. That is all I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, but just I would definitely recommend you to anyone who is looking for advice in this area. I think that it was a perfect mix of being in the right headspace, but actionable steps that are easy to execute.